Oh, okay. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first day of our session. Between today and tomorrow, we are going to go through the scientific publication, the manuscript developments, in a sense, how you can put together your first manuscript, how you can choose which journal to publish it in, and how you can send it out to publication for publication. Probably by now, I'm sure some of you, your names might have appeared in some publication, or maybe none. If your name has appeared in some publication and you are not the one who wrote the entire manuscript, you still need to learn how to do that, because just being part of authors alone is not enough. You need to get to the stage where you develop everything from the beginning to the end, find a journal, submit it, and go through the entire process. And so we are going to look at, I have assumed that we all have zero knowledge on this, so that we can take it from the very basic level, and then we can build it up on. For those who have met here and those online, I think it are spread across 5 disciplines. There are psychologists and psychology graduate students. There are those who are in education. Public health is represented. Information science is represented. Business education is represented. And so it's very multidisciplinary. But the science of it, the science and the practice cuts across discipline. Irrespective of which discipline you are, you basically go through the same process and you work within the same landscape. Today's training, we basically be looking at the scientific publishing landscape. Because if you are going to, you don't just sit down and say you are drafting a manuscript when you don't know the landscape that you want to enter or you want to contribute to. And then from there, we'll move on to specific academic papers, and then we'll work through some few. But today's engagement, because of the unplanned council meeting, we'll close earlier than anticipated. So today we'll end at 12:30 instead of 2. Tomorrow we will start earlier. We'll start at 9 instead of the 10 that is communicated, to make up for the time we'll lose today. So tomorrow we'll do a number of things. Something would have started today. Tomorrow we'll move to how to then develop it into a full draft, and then go through what to do with pre-submission review, and then also how to submit to journals, and then how to manage emotions and expectations. Okay. Yes, there are a lot of emotions around these things. And as an early career, or as somebody coming up within the scientific publication landscape, you need to know these emotions and you need to know how to manage it. Because I quite remember 2 years ago, we held a certain workshop. And after the workshop, somebody called me that, hold on, so I have one publication now. I said, really? Which journal? He said, I just submitted. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You have just submitted. Go and check. Maybe they have even rejected. Lo and behold, he checked and they had rejected the journal. And the person became so broken, right? There's a lot of emotions around these things. So we'll look at that as well. But for today, let's look at the scientific publication landscape, where we'll look at why is there a need to publish in the first place. I mean, many of you are practitioners in your field. Okay, many of you are into administration, many of you are into field practice. Why should you worry yourself publishing? We'll look at that. And then we'll look at what is the difference? What is a journal? What is a publisher? What is a database? Because you need this understanding to make some specific decisions about where to publish. It is very important. We'll look at key stakeholders in the publishing space so that you're able to locate yourself among the stakeholders and what you do. Because when you are starting, you occupy a certain key holder position. As you move along, probably your positions may change depending on how well you are progressing within the space. And then we'll look at the article publication process, the whole process from the beginning to the end. How does it look like? And then, at least today, we'll look at how to select journals for publication and how to avoid there's something within that space called predatory journals. Predatory journals, we talk about that. There are some, usually when graduate students are starting or when early careers are starting, they get lured into publishing in journals that will later hurt their reputation. So there are so many people I know today who have certain publications that they have been trying heaven and hell to make sure that those publications are pulled down, but they can never be pulled down. Okay, so there are some scholars, some of them have even gone ahead to become professors who have certain publications that they always hate it when their names are associated with those publications, right? And sometimes those publications, when you go online, the publications are doing well, but when they put together their CV, they never include those publications because it hurts their reputation. We call them predatory journals. And anybody who is starting afresh is likely to be a victim of predatory journals. We'll look at what they are and how to avoid them and all of that. And so at least today we are going to have some form of some engagement. At any point when you have a question, whether online or in person, you can, those online, you can put up your hand and I will call you. And those in person, if you have any question at any point in time. So let's say you are an educationist. You work within the educational space or you work within the management space. You work within the hospital. Why must you publish? Okay, there are so many people who are doing so well in their practice, whether in law or in medicine or in pharmacy or in business or in health, who are doing exceptionally well. And their practitioners, their colleagues always know, they know them, they fall on them and all of that. So in terms of practice, they are doing exceptionally well. For example, there are certain lawyers that they will tell you when it comes to this case, call this person. Everybody knows. In the past, if you are good at what you do, it was okay. Right? If you are good at what you do, it was okay. There was no need to publish anything. You already have your reputation. But because we are in a certain knowledge economy globally, right? Whether you are good at what you do or not, if you are not producing knowledge about it, sometimes it places limitations on the extent to which you can be recognized. Is that okay? So if you take two practitioners, for example, let's say you take two psychologists or you take two business management scientists, and they are all good. One publishes, the other does not publish. Okay, certainly the one who publishes will be known by the international community. Is that okay? The reason is that if you are good at what you do, don't die with your knowledge. Do you get it? Don't die with your knowledge. Leave something behind. Leave something behind for the people who are yet to come and benefit. Leave something behind for your colleagues to also borrow from your ideas. And so dissemination of knowledge is very critical now in all areas of practice. In all areas of practice, not just in academia. In the past, publication used to be reserved for those who are in academia. For example, lecturers or those who work in research institutions. But now you have people who practice, who are, for example, medical doctors or surgeons who are publishing. You have people who are nurses, they are practitioner nurses who are publishing. There are those who are pharmacists who are publishing. There are those who work in the bank, maybe they are HR people or they are accountants who are publishing, because now the understanding has come to be that publishing is not reserved for academics. It is reserved for people who are good at their trade. Whatever career you have chosen for yourself, if you are good at it, you are constantly producing knowledge. So publish that knowledge, let the global community become aware of it so that they either adapt it or they learn from it. And so dissemination of knowledge is a key reason for publication. As a matter of fact, it's the first reason for publication. When you want to publish, it means that you have found a knowledge that is worthy of being shared to your colleague practitioners. And so you are always working within a particular field. So when you are publishing, it means that you are contributing to that field. Is that okay? If you are a trained psychologist or you are a trained educationist and you practice for 20 years, you practice for 30 years, and you don't publish anything, in a way, it will be very difficult for anybody to trace what your contribution to the field is when you are retired. Is that okay? We can talk about maybe the organizations within which you worked. The employees can talk about, oh, you are a fan of working with, you are this and you are that, but that is the end. The field where you worked in, there is no evidence you are leaving behind of your own contribution to the field, such that other people who are now coming can also learn some of the things you did. Is that okay? And that is why publication is very important. Any field where practitioners or the researchers are not publishing, the field can easily die off. Okay, so it is mandatory. You have to understand this. It's mandatory that whatever field you have found now, you should always think through. I have been in this space for 2 years. I have been in this space for 3 years. What have I contributed in the last 2 years? What have I contributed in the last 3 years? Or this year, what am I contributing to the field? And the key contribution you can make is what you are publishing. If you are attending to your clients, you can attend to your clients the best way possible. That is your contribution to the clients. You can serve your organization very well. That's your contributing to the organization. But what's your contribution to the field itself globally? That one, the only thing that is used to recognize that is publication. Okay, so right from the very word go, you have to start thinking through these things. Okay, because now for all of you in your field, there are people you call authorities who are either professors or accomplished scholars in the field. They will die off. Do you get it? They will fade off the system. And it will come to a time that your generation will then will be in the helm of affairs. So at the time where the people, your cohorts, now become the helm of affairs, where will your name stand? Fundamentally, that's what it means. Is that okay? So you have to keep thinking about these things. It's very important. So number one reason for publication is dissemination of knowledge as your own contribution to the field. Whichever professor is teaching you or has taught you, the professor will retire, the professor will die. Do you get it? And then you will now come in to now come and help train the next generation. Whose knowledge are you going to use to train? You realize that for a very long time in Africa, there has been a lot of complaints that, the textbook trainings are all based on foreign textbooks. Examples are based on foreign examples and all of that. It is because Africans don't write enough. globally. If you are to compare Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, South America, scientific publications from Africa is always lowest. Scientific publications. But in terms of population, we are a lot, but we don't write. Do you get it? There could be a lot of reasons for why this may be the case. For example, now when people are chasing careers, when they get a career and they are getting their pay, they look for when am I getting my promotion? So it's promotion and then retirement. The consciousness of what am I leaving behind from my profession is not so well ingrained in Africans. Do you get it? What am I leaving behind for my profession? It's not so well ingrained. So if I am a chief security, what am I leaving behind for the security profession? Okay, if I am a HR, what am I leaving behind for the field of HR? It's not so much a consciousness within Africans. And so people are so great at what they do, and yet very few people go ahead to leave knowledge. Okay, so if you are here, let that consciousness sink in. Is that okay? And start thinking through, when all is said and done, what am I leaving behind? Last year, a young professor of psychology died. Those who are within psychology, I'm sure you know him, Professor Setopon, a young guy. He was 3 years my senior in the PhD, so he was a very good friend. And when he passed, and the African Union of Psychologists had to hold a memorial lecture for him, right? And this year when it was a 1 year, then we also held a memorial for him. And the guest speakers, well, they were kind of speaking to his contribution to African psychology in his short years of life. Okay. And when you go through that, he had done a lot of work. Okay, he had published a lot of work. But probably he was in academia, so it is, what do you call it? Maybe it's understandable. But it's not all of you that will find yourselves in academia. Do you get it? Some of you may find yourself in the practice space, either industry or management, without teaching and research being your core duty. Even at that, you are still working within a profession. So what are you leaving behind? Let that be your first reason why you need to publish. The second one is career advancement, especially if you find yourself within the academic space. And even now within the industry space, okay? For example, if you are an accountant in an organization and you publish and you present your findings at accounting conferences, definitely you are going to have a certain reputation even within your organization that other accountants who are not publishing will not have. Is that okay? But when you are unfortunate and you find yourself in academia, right? When the devil, whatever devil that is doing you, pushes you into academia, then publication is now going to become a key decider of your promotions, especially if you want to rise within the ranks of senior membership and senior faculties. Okay, so your promotions, your tenure, and that apart from that, your grants. Grants, these days, you don't need to be a university faculty to apply for grants, as in to apply for money to do research. Even if you are a practitioner, you are not teaching and researching. You are not teaching, you are practicing, okay? But as part of your practice, you write, you research. You can write for grants. And then it can also help you with collaborations. It can help you with collaborations. Somebody would just send you an email and you are not expecting. And the person will say, oh, I've seen so-and-so paper you have published, or so-and-so maybe there's this project we are thinking about, there's that project we are thinking about, we want to collaborate with you, or will you be interested in coming on board? All right, so publication does a lot. For example, publication is what will do the marketing for you when you are sleeping. When you publish, when you are sleeping, then your publication will be carrying your name and marketing you to the rest of the global community. And so career advancement, even if you are not interested in leaving anything for your field, at least think through career advancement. Okay, it's very important. And the third, but not the least, is building identity. Building an identity. Now, in the past, when very few people were going to school, when you have even first degree, almost the entire community will know you. Okay, when you have first degree, the whole organization will know you. And then first degree became common. So now masters, when you have masters, everybody will know, oh, he has finished his masters. Oh, he has finished his masters. He has done masters and all of that. Now masters is as common as anything. And this is because educational level, because education is very flexible. There are more workers who are doing their master's degree than there are full-time students doing master's degree. Right? I'm sure those of you sitting in this conference room and those online, about 100% of you are workers and you are still schooling. So what it means is that when you finish master's, there's nothing new to it, right? Then so people finish their masters and realize that everybody has masters. Now let me go and do PhD. When you enter into PhD space, then you realize that there are so many people doing PhD. Right? So whenever something becomes common, the human tendency is that let me do the next thing to standards. Let me do the next thing to standard. That means that you want to build an identity that when the likes people like you meet, there must be something that defines you alone. Do you get it? So in your field, let's say you are being trained as a psychologist or as a public health practitioner or as an information scientist or as an educationist. When a group of educationists meets, what is it about you that is different from everybody else? Right? When a group of psychologists meets, what is it about you that is different from everybody else? Or when a group of public health professionals meet, what is it about you that is different from everybody else? That is the identity we are talking about. Is that okay? So your certificates, unfortunately, will not give you an identity. Your certificate will give you a profession. Okay? Your certificate will give you a profession. Wherever you choose to take your certificate to, that will give you an occupation. For example, maybe you are doing masters in clinical psychology, so that is your profession, you are doing it. But maybe you may stay in academia, maybe you will work in industry. That will be an occupation. Is that okay? And so it means that all the people around you are all known to be the same thing. What is it that distinguishes you from everybody else who has the same profession or the same occupation as you? And that is scholarly identity. Is that okay? What are you building? What brand are you building? Essentially. So if you're a psychologist who does what? What will you be known for? For example, and whatever you'll be known for, in the past, you just meet people and you hand over your complimentary card and it will tell them, oh, I'm this person. Or you just tell people, this is what I do. Now, in this global community, we live in a world where we don't like long talks. Do you get it? You mention your name and somebody will Google you. Somebody will Google you. And when the person Googles you, if you have an expertise in what you say you have, we should be able to see it. If we are not seeing it, you are just saying it. Okay? And it will be very painful for you to be so good at something, and you have to go around convincing people that you are good at it. And you don't have any evidence out there that speaks for you. Do you get it? It means that wherever you go to, you have to read your manifesto. Every time you have to be convincing people, let's say you are a psychologist. When it comes to managing addiction, let's say you are the best. No matter how worse the addictive behavior is, you can manage it easily. And there is nothing within the scientific space that is communicating this expertise that you have as an identity. You have to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk for people to even, they will just listen, but they will still doubt you. Is that okay? So when you are publishing, you are building an identity, and that identity will also increase your visibility. For example, if you are to Google any professor you know, right? If you write the person's name pops up, and everything the person does will be there. So you don't need to call the person to ask, what do you do? Please, what is your expertise? No, they don't have that time to respond. If you want to know who they are, check them online. You'll find it. They don't need to be communicating that. They have already done that. Is that okay? So this publication thing, it's not just about putting something on paper and getting it in a scientific space. It's a whole brand you are building. Okay? One, you are leaving something behind for the field. When your time is up and you have to retire from the field, your name can always be mentioned. Or you may retire and for decades, students will be reading you or researchers will be reading you. Maybe the person might be dead and gone until now the person is still read. Whatever the person wrote is still in the system. And so that should be your core focus. Then career advancement comes in, and then scholarly identity comes in. And when I say scholarly identity, it's not about being in academia. It's about how well you are writing about your experiences and your expertise. Okay? So that other people will know. So for example, you may have a group of medical doctors who may manage, let's say, a case at a hospital, or maybe you may have a group of surgeons who may perform a surgery. And depending on how the surgery went, they will write about it and publish it. Do you get it? Other, maybe in the middle of the process, they encountered a difficulty, even how they resolved that difficulty, whether it was successful, whether it wasn't successful, they write about it. There are other surgeons elsewhere who will read it to know, oh, these people met this difficulty, this is how they resolved it. Maybe they may also meet the same difficulty in the operating room someday. If you have written about it, then they will be able to have that knowledge and be able to know how to deal with it. So you don't need to be in academia to publish. Is that okay? You don't need to be in academia to publish. As a matter of fact, the moment you are doing something you are good at, even if in the West, even if the person is a driver and is a good driver, they start writing. Do you get it? They write everything and anything. Here, we leave everything to those in classrooms to write. So if I'm not teaching students, if I don't need research publication for my promotions, then I don't have to write. You are losing a lot of opportunities if you are doing that. Is that okay? So the reason to publish is bigger than yourself. Do you get it? It's about what you are living as you are alive and what you are living when you are gone. Do you get it? Your great-grandchildren will come and they will hear that, oh, my grandfather was also and so, and they'll be reading your paper. Do you get it? Even if they are not doing anything related to your field. Once they heard that, oh, your so and so was your grandfather. Imagine if, as you are seated here, if they told you that oh, your grandfather published the book, or your grandmother published the book, at least you will find it and read it. Okay, so that is the reason why you have to develop the consciousness to publish anything, no matter how small you think it is. You have to learn how to publish. Now let's look at where do you publish? Okay, so the whole scientific landscape works such that the world has created a system, something like a big platform, where they ask every scientist and everything you write, that when you write anything, bring it to this space, bring it to one space. There's one space created that all scholarly materials have to be found. If it's not found there, it cannot be trusted. So when you write anything, you publish it in a journal. Okay, you publish it in a journal. And that journal, we have publishing houses who publish those journals. So if you are in a field or whatever discipline you are, you need to know the key publishers of journals in that field. So for example, you can have something like Journal of Applied Psychology. So it's a journal. So if you have a paper, you will send the paper to a journal. That journal is published by a certain publishing house. Is that okay? So the Journal of Psychology, for example, is published by the American Psychological Association, the EPA. Then we have another journal called the Lancet. The Lancet publishes anything related to health and health advancements. That journal is published by a publisher called Elsevier. Okay. There's another journal called Educational Psychology Review or Behavioral Ecology. So there are different kinds of journals. And so once you finish writing your manuscript, you'll be looking for a journal. Why is it important to know who the publisher of that journal is? The publisher of the journal will then tell you whether the journal is credible or not credible. Is that okay? The publisher will tell you whether the journal is credible or not credible. For example, if you meet somebody and the person tells you, I'm doing first degree in business administration, what will be your next question? At where? If the person says, oh, I'm doing it at Prempeh College or at this other, straight away you would doubt it because the host of the course is not credible. Do you get it? So when you are looking for a journal, it is important to know which publishing house publishes this journal. And every journal, it is written at the top. The publisher is written at the top. Let me show you some examples. Let me take you online. Let's search for some journals. Those online, can you see my Google Scholar? My Google Scholar page.
Yes, Doc.
Yes,
Okay, let's say we are looking for maybe any journal in business management. Let me just type. Oh, those online, hold on, I'm coming. Please, those online, bear with us. We are trying to resolve some technical challenge here. All right, so it's coming up. Okay. For example, when you go on Google Scholar, and we'll talk about Google Scholar soon, as in where it stands within the scientific publication landscape. So when you go on Google Scholar and you type anything, the title of the papers are written boldly in blue. So this first one, for example, is Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management. Can we afford to neglect them in the 21st century business? So this is a title of a manuscript that has been published in this journal. Now, this paper is published in British Journal of Management, And the British Journal of Management is published by Wiley Online Library. That's a publisher. Okay. So the name of the authors are written, then the journal is written, and then the publisher is also written. When you go to the second one, some research perspectives on entrepreneurship education, enterprise education, blah, blah, blah. This one is published in Small Business Journal, and this journal is published by Sage. So let's download this paper and see how it looks like. Let's download this one too. Okay, so when you want to download a paper, for example, it will take you to the publisher's place. Because each publishing house publishes different journals. Okay, each publishing house publishes different journals. And so Wiley Online, for example, publishes different journals. And it is one of those journals that you send your paper to. Is that okay? So you need to know the difference between a journal and a publishing house. So let's see the third one, for example, research methods in the leading small business entrepreneurship journals. A critical review. This is published in Business Management. The Business Management is the journal, and it's published by Wiley as a publishing house. Let me download this paper. I want to download it. This one will come as a PDF. So that when you, good. So this, I hope you can all see the paper that has been downloaded. Good. So this is the research article. This is the name of the journal. The name of the journal. And the journals they publish every year. And every year they might publish 2 or 3. Okay, so this paper, for example, was published in 2009. And this is probably the 47th publication of this journal. So you find it in the edition 3. Okay, so you have to always know which publishing house publishes this journal, because if the publishing house is not credible, the journal you are taking it to will also not be credible. Is that okay? So that is why you need to know each. Those online, can you see I'm re-showing what do you call it? The slides. Can you see it?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So you need to know, for example, if I want to publish in psychological science as a journal, I need to know that SAGE publishes that. If I want to publish in BMC Public Health, I know that this journal is published by Biomed Central. If I want to publish in Educational Research Review, I know that Elsevier publishes it. And then we have what we call databases. So because the field of publication is yeah, hello.
We can only see the first slide. You don't move to the slide you're on, please.
Is it moving?
No, please.
Okay, hold on. Let me work through this. Is it moving now? It's still not moving online.
No, Doc.
Let me see. It means that it's probably duplicating online. Is it moving? Okay. So it's moving now. Okay. Right. So it's not moving anymore. It's stuck on the third slide. So here, it's stuck here. Now it's moving. So let me project and let me check to see if nothing else is. Is it projected there? Projecting. Let me see what could be happening. Let me see. So if I'm not projecting, is it moving?
I think now it's moving.
Okay, let me try and project this time. If it doesn't move, then I'll stop projecting it. Is it moving? But is it moving now?
Yeah.
Interesting. Let me stop sharing, reshare. Let me see. Is it sharing? You can see the slide.
Yes, please.
So is it moving? Anyway, let's.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
It's moving.
All right. Well, okay, so So we've talked about journals, and we've talked about the fact that journals are published by publishers or publishing houses. Then there's what we call databases. Every journal, for you to be able to find it easy to look for research materials when you are looking for it. So you wouldn't need to go to, for example, if an article is published in Journal of Applied Psychology and you need it, if you have to go to the home page of Journal of Applied Psychology to go and search everything there, and then when you finish, you go to another journal, go there and go and search. When you finish, you go to another journal, go there and go and search. It will be too cumbersome when you're looking for published materials. Because of that, databases are created which indexes all publications by all journals. So as soon as you publish any paper in a journal, that paper is indexed within a database. So that when you type the subject you want, let's say business management, in that database, it brings you all research materials that have been published on business management in different journals. It brings all to you in one place, so that you don't need to be roaming from one journal's homepage to another journal homepage to another journal homepage. That is what we call databases. Is that okay? So when you visit a database, so Google Scholar is an example of a database. So when you go to Google Scholar, you will just type in the subject you are interested in. Okay? And that database will search its records and produce a list of all materials that have been produced on that subject in various journals without you needing to go and visit that journal's homepage. That is what we call indexing. Is that okay? So before you publish in any journal, you have to know that which databases have this journal been indexed in. Because if the journal is not properly indexed, you will put your research material in that journal and nobody will find it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nobody will find it. When researchers are searching for materials, let's say you have published something on addiction. If I'm a researcher and I'm interested in something on addiction, I'll just go in and type addiction. Let me take you to Google Scholar. Let's look at this and then see. Where is the Google Scholar? Okay, we are on Google Scholar now. Is it showing at your end? Those online, is Google Scholar showing? Okay. So let's say you come to Google Scholar like this, in the fresh page, you open Google Scholar fresh like this. So now you have to type in the subject you are interested in. Somebody should give me an idea. Let's say job satisfaction. Let me use an example that cuts across. Okay, so you type in job satisfaction. This is a database. It has to go through all the materials, all the journal articles it has indexed to bring out all articles that have job satisfaction in it. So if you look at the top here about this place I've highlighted, it means that when this database was searched, 4,333,000 materials have job satisfaction written somewhere in that material. Okay, and each of those materials is probably listed in a different journal. So when you pick the first one, the job satisfaction, the paper by T.A. Judge and his people, that one is listed in a journal of job attitude and whatever. That ... means that the journal name is very long. A review of job satisfaction. This one is published in Asian Social Science. That's the name of the journal. So we didn't need to go to Asian Social Science, their homepage, to go and get this. We don't need to visit this one too. The third one too is listed in, is published in Journal of Management Research and Practice. We didn't need to go to their homepage. This one too, what is job satisfaction? This one is published in Organizational Behavior and Human Performance Journal. And that journal is published by Elsevier. The first journal is published by Taylor and Francis. The next journal, ISO Journal of Humanities and Social Science. There's also another journal. So that is what databases do. Okay, that's what databases do. Now I'm taking you back to our slides and then we'll look at. So there are different kinds of databases. So Google Scholar is one of them. Scopus is also one. Web of Science is another. PsycInfo is another. PubMed is another. Google Scholar. So before you decide that, okay, I want to publish in this journal, you need to know who publishes this journal and which databases indexes publications from this journal. Is that okay? Because if articles from that journal are indexed in multiple databases, it means that multiple researchers are likely to come across your paper when they type the subject area in any of those databases. So the Journal of Applied Psychology, for example, which is published by APA, it is indexed in Scopus, it is indexed in Web of Science, it is indexed in PsycInfo, it is indexed in PubMed and other indexes. Is that okay? So you need to be sure that this journal that I say I want to publish in, where is it indexed? Such that when you publish your article, the way the databases indexes articles is that it uses keywords. When you publish your paper has a title. So the indexes will pick the keywords from your title. Because when you go online, you search keywords. You don't search statements. Nobody goes online and type the effect of social media on addiction. No, you just type social media addiction. Okay, so when you also publish, the databases will pick the keywords from your title, right? And then index it in that database so that if anybody comes to that database and types addiction, because you have addiction as part of your keywords or your title, your paper will pop out among the other materials that will come. So if you are not publishing in appropriate journals, your papers will not have visibility. If your papers are not having visibility, it means that nobody will see it. If nobody is seeing it, it means that nobody is reading it. If nobody is reading it, it's just like writing a paper and putting it under your bed. You get it? So before you enter into this thing about scientific publication, you need fundamental understanding of these three things: a journal, a publisher, a database. So that you know that, oh, my article will go into a journal. That journal is published by a publishing house. And once they publish it, databases will index all articles in that journal. Because when a journal publishes an issue, let's say they publishes this month, one journal, maybe they might have published about 12 articles, of which yours is one of those articles. Okay. Now the databases then takes it over and then indexes every article based on the keywords in the title, abstracts, and these days a requirement that when you are publishing, you provide your own keywords, because the keywords that researchers use to search. So if you are selecting a journal, when you have a paper, there are so many people who will write something and put it on Google Scholar or ResearchGate, okay? And they will say, oh, I've published. That's not publication. Uploading a material is not publication. Do you get it? if you have published, your publication needs to be in a journal, in an internationally recognized journal. There are many scholars who don't like to publish in journals in some Ghanaian journals, because they argue that most of their Ghanaian journals are not properly indexed on international databases. So if they put their paper in a Ghanaian journal, a researcher in the US, will not be able to find that paper. So there are some journals, for example, University of Ghana has journals. There are many universities, UDS has journals. KNUST has journals. UHAS does not have a journal yet, if I'm not mistaken. But there are plans in the pipeline for UHAS to develop its own journal. Is that okay? Now, when the university develops the journal, they expect that researchers, not just within that university, researchers in that university and other universities should bring their papers for them to publish. Before a researcher will say that, okay, I'm sending my journal to this, my paper to this journal, they will check. If they are not finding the Journal of Scopes, if they are not finding the Journal of Web of Science, if they are not finding the journal on key databases, the professors, they will not bring their papers. At best, they may encourage their students to send their papers there, but they themselves, they won't bring it. Unless maybe maybe the professor or the scholar has self-actualized. Okay, they has built a brand that doesn't need any further publication. So you can decide that, okay, I want to publish in your journal to give your journal some credibility. Because there's for example, if you has a journal, if you has publishes starts a journal, there are certain professors of this university that they need to speak to, that please bring a paper. Do you get it? The likes of Prof. Binka, the Prof. Japons, and those so that they know that, oh, okay, this person is an internationally acclaimed scholar. So if we get to publish his paper, other researchers will believe the journal. Do you get it? If not, the journal has to be properly indexed. And that is why there are so many Ghanaian scholars who don't like publishing in Ghanaian journals. They don't like it. Because if they put it in there, the international community will not see it and will not read it. And so people will not be citing that paper. So know these three fundamental dimensions of publications. Yes, a question. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there are many locally produced journals that are not properly indexed. And so many people don't like to publish it. There are some journals in Ghana that are properly indexed. No, I won't mention, because it's a Ghanaian space, I won't mention any particular journal. That this journal, because what that will mean is that if I don't mention a journal, it will be assumed that that journal is not properly indexed. So I'm not mentioning any journal. But what I'm saying is that if you are going to put a paper in a journal, make sure that the journal is properly indexed. Is that okay? We'll look at how to evaluate journals. We'll look at how to evaluate journals, and then you'll know how to assess whether a journal is good or a journal is bad. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So let me take you back to the search, and let's try Scopus, for example. Let's see. So if you want to go to a database, if you want to search a database, you have to go to the database's, what do you call it? Its homepage, okay? Okay, so when you go to Scopus, for example, they provide different things. For Scopus, they can give you a space where you search authors. For example, if you are working in a particular field and there are some key scholars in that field, maybe there are some 3 or 4 key scholars, you don't want to miss any papers that have been written by this scholar. You can come and then you can type in the name, the author's last name and the first name, and they will bring you everything that a person has written. Okay, but if you want to search for articles, let me. Okay. The Scopus, their places. The Scopus is owned by Elsevier, which is a publishing house by itself, right? So Elsevier, they publish journals and they also own Scopus as a database. Is that okay? So far, are there any publishing houses in Ghana or Africa that own databases? I think AJOL is an African-based database. So let's say okay. Okay. So you can come to their database like this, and then you type in your search strategy. Do you get it? So once you type in any keyword like we did on Google Scholar, then it produces journals that have published materials on that. You can do the same thing with any of the journals listed here, any of the databases here. Let's go back. Because I know that for many students, it's only Google Scholar that they know. And even worse, there are many students who even search published materials on Google. You know, there's a difference between Google and Google Scholar. As for Google, don't go there. The reason you don't go to Google is that Google is kind of user-generated content. So even if I put something on my Facebook page and you type it on Google, you'll see it. Okay, so the materials you find on Google are not peer-reviewed materials. They are not scientifically approved materials. So if you use Google, go to Google Scholar. But apart from Google Scholar, so don't just search materials on Google Scholar and when you finish, you say, I'm done with my search. No, do Google Scholar, do about 3 or 4 databases. Okay, do about 3 or 4 databases. We'll look at this into details when we are doing the workshop on systematic review. Is that okay? So PubMed, especially if you are doing any research within the health space, you need to search on PubMed as well. Some of the databases are general. They index general papers. Others are very specific. So PubMed, for example, is mainly health-related research. If it's not health-related, you are not likely to see it. So at least Google, Web of Science, Scopus, PubMed, just do 3 or 4 databases search before you can say that, oh, I finished with my search, I'm not getting papers. You see many people who are starting the research space. I'm searching, I'm not getting papers. And you ask, where did you search? Sometimes they say Google or they say Google Scholar. Yeah, but did you try the other databases? Even though, for example, one paper can be indexed in Scopus, Google Scholar, Web of Science, PubMed. One paper can be indexed in 6 different databases. So, for example, if you put a paper in, let's say, psychological science. If you put any paper in this journal, the psychological science, which stage publishes it? The paper will be indexed in Scopus, it will be indexed in Web of Science, it will be indexed in PsycInfo, it will be indexed in PubMed, it will be indexed in Google Scholar. So anywhere the person searches, the person will find your paper. And it also means that the person can come across your paper on Google Scholar and Scopus. And so by the time you use different databases, when you finish, you might have had some duplicates of papers. Is that okay? But you need to understand this landscape, this publication landscape. It's very important. Now, those online, do any of you have a question so far?
No, Doc.
No, please.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so somebody is asking whether one paper can be published in different. No. You can only publish one paper in one journal. You can't publish one paper in multiple journals. But the paper can be indexed in multiple databases. The reason why we don't allow multiple publication of the same paper is that it will deceive science. Do you get it? It will deceive science. For example, if you have done, let's say, research, and you find that, let's say, women report higher depression than men. It's one research that you have found this. If you publish it in 3 journals, it will be assumed that 3 studies have reported that. Do you get it? Because the thing about science is that as more studies report the same evidence, right, the strength of that evidence begins to increase. Do you get it? And so you cannot publish what, even when you are submitting a paper to a particular journal, they will ask you to indicate, have you submitted this paper to another journal for review? Even if you have submitted it for review, you haven't received feedback, you can't submit it to a different journal. Do you get it? So when you submit a paper to, let's say, journal A, you cannot submit the same paper to journal B. Wait till you hear from that journal. If the journal say we will not publish it, then you can say, okay, if you will not publish it, maybe another journal will publish it before you can send it to a different journal. Okay, so one paper cannot be published in multiple journals. But when you publish one paper, that one paper will be indexed in multiple journals. They have to make sure that the paper is available everywhere so that anybody looking for that paper will find it. Is that okay? Because if you are publishing scientific findings and the scientific findings are inaccessible, that also hurts science. And anything that hurts science comes back to hurt human beings. Anything that helps science comes back to help human beings. Do you get it? The world was able to get a handle on COVID-19 because of science. So WHO had to create a new database for all research scientists who were researching on the COVID virus. Is that okay? So the moment you start your research in your lab, you register it in the database so that they know that, oh, researchers at Wartburg, researchers at Noguchi, researchers are here, or researchers are here, they are doing this research. So the moment you finish, you put your findings on there, and all the other scientists see what has been found in Ghana, what has been found in South Africa, what has been found in. That is how the world was able to know how the virus was mutating across different continents. Do you get it? So there are a number of the virus mutation that you see that they say that in South Africa, the virus has mutated. In this, the virus has done that. Is that okay? So there needs to be orderliness in this thing. Is that okay? So we can't allow for duplication of knowledge. Do you get it? We can't allow for duplication of knowledge. If you do that, it's just like maybe you've opened a business and one customer comes to buy wearing red dress. Then the customer goes back and wears a blue dress, comes to buy from you. And you are just counting the color of dresses to know the number of customers you have. The same customer will go and wear green and come. The same customer will go and wear yellow. And at the end of the day, you say, well, I have 4 customers. No, you have 1. It's just one person changing the dress color. Do you get it? So 1 article per 1 journal. And that 1 article will be well indexed in several databases to make sure that they are well placed, so that anybody anywhere in the world can easily find it when they are looking for it. Yes. We'll come to that very soon. How long does it take a journal to respond to your request? We'll come to that in a bit. So now let's look at the key stakeholders and then know where you are going to place yourself. So the first key stakeholder is the author. At this point, that is where many of us are seeking to be. The authors who are writing and submitting the manuscripts. Every journal has a manager. Every journal has a manager. So when you send the paper, it goes to the manager of the journal. The manager is called the editor. The editor. So whenever anybody sends any article to a journal, the journal will first go to the editor. The editor will manage the review process and make the final publication decision. If the editor says we will publish it, the journal will publish it. If the editor says we will not publish it, forget it. That journal will not publish it. The editor makes the final decision. Now, when a journal goes to an editor, the editor will first of all review the paper to determine whether the paper has scientific value for them, for the journal. Is that okay? Does this paper has, because if I'm an editor of a business journal and you sent me education paper, the paper has no scientific value for this journal, so I will say no. It doesn't mean your paper is not good. Your paper is just not suited for the journal I'm managing. Do you get it? So the editor will first review the paper and then decide whether the journal is suitable for them or not. If the editor decides that your paper is not good for us, the editor will send your paper back to you. If the editor decides that this paper has some value for our journal, the editor will then pass it on to reviewers. So the reviewers are the next stage, the next stakeholders. The reviewers are now going to read your paper. The reviewers are mostly scholars within the field you have written in, who have also published before. Do you get it? So the editor is now coming to say, and mostly the editors tend to be senior scholars. Do you get it? They tend to be senior scholars, mostly professors. So they will first review and say that, yeah, I think this one has some value. Then they will then pass it on to reviewers who are also other key scholars in the area where you are publishing. They will send to them. In many journals, they will send to minimum 2. Some journals can send it to 3 scholars. They are now going to probe your paper. This is what we call peer review. They are now going to probe your paper to decide whether the paper is good or not good. If the reviewers tell the editor that I have reviewed this, the paper is not good, reject it, the editor will write back to you and reject it. If the reviewers write back to the editor and say that the paper is good, but it needs a lot of work, so these corrections need to be done, the editor will write back to you. So as a matter of fact, when you are putting together a manuscript, before you get to the publishing stage, before you get here, you need to jump 2 hurdles. You need to jump the editor's review and jump the reviewer's review. If you're able to jump those 2, then the publisher will publish it. Do you get it? Because the publishers, they hire the editors. That let's say a publisher like Elsevier or Sage will say that we have developed a journal on maybe mood disorders, and you are a professor of mood disorders. We want you to be the editor for us. Do you get it? So the publishers will be waiting for the editor to say that these papers have gone through the review process, so publish these ones. Do you get it? So these are the 4 major stakeholders in the publishing space. So when you are putting together a manuscript, you may be sitting in the comfort of your bedroom or your office or the library or wherever, but as a matter of fact, it's a game of, it's like a football, there's opposition. Do you get it? Your paper, you have to write with editors in mind. The first person your paper needs to convince is the editor, who is almost always a professor in your field. So if you have to write a paper, it's like you are writing a paper to convince a professor in your field that this paper is good. When the professor becomes convinced, the professor will now send it to other scholars. Do you get it? Other scholars in your field for them to review, because they don't want the editor to make a sole decision. Maybe the editor can be biased. That is why the reviewers are there. So a paper can look good to editor, but reviewers will reject it, and the editor has to reject it. Do you get it? An editor may disagree with the paper, but reviewers can accept it and recommend, what do you call it? Corrections. Is that okay? So when it goes beyond all this, then the publishers will now, the editor will communicate to the publishers to publish it. For example, yesterday, let me show you something. I received an email from an editor to review a paper. So some researchers have conducted research, and the research is on understanding postpartum depression, psychosocial risk, and its effect on maternal functioning and quality of life. The journal is BMC Pregnancy and Childbirth. This is the journal. This journal is published by Springer. Okay, it's published by Springer. So it means that they sent it to the editor. Before it has come to me, the editor, this is the name of the editor, Matteo Passini. If you search him, he's probably a professor in the field. So the editor must have reviewed it and has seen some value in it for the Journal of Pregnancy and Childbirth. So now they have to send it to some scholars to review. I don't know the editor anywhere. I have nothing to do with this. In fact, I have never seen this journal before. I've never seen this journal before. I don't know the authors. I don't know anybody. Do you get it? They must have pulled my information online to determine that I am fit to review this paper. And that is why they have sent it to me. I haven't even responded to the email to say, yes, I'll review it or I decline to review. I haven't even. They've just sent me the abstract. Dear Dr. AJ, we have received a manuscript for BMC, pregnancy and childbirth, that we think falls within your area of expertise. I have not spoken to them before. How do they know my area of expertise? Do you get it? In the first slide, when I say when you are publishing, you are communicating an identity, a field of expertise. You will be there, you will receive an email from people you've never met. Do you get it? And so they say, we will greatly appreciate if you could let us know if you are available to review by accepting or declining. So they always add a link. If I want to accept it, then I'll click on the link for the acceptance. When I accept it, so for now, in this email, they will only send your abstract to the reviewer. The editor will only send your abstract, not your full paper, only the abstract, for the reviewer to read it and to decide whether. Last week I rejected a certain review and I knew it was predatory journal. If I knew the authors, I would have told them this, because the journal is on architecture and they've sent it to me to review. Clearly, the journal is bad journal. Do you get it? Even though I am not an expert of pregnancy and childbirth, but this topic borders on psychology, mental health. Do you get it? So if it's a credible journal, before they send it to you, they would have gone through your portfolio. Or when the authors are submitting, there are some journals that when you are submitting, they will say, suggest some scholars in your field who you think would best fit to review. And when you submit it, the journals will have to do background checks to know that you are no way affiliated to the researchers you are, to the scholars you are suggesting. If you are anywhere connected to a scholar you are suggesting, they will not send it to the person because they will know that you want to send it to your colleagues to review. Do you get it? They will always come with favorable comment. So they've sent me I opened it, yes, I haven't even read the abstract to decide whether I will review it or not. Is that okay? I have so many emails like this sitting in my emails. If you start publishing and your identity starts becoming clear, journals will always be contacting you. And when you have become a reviewer for a very long time, it builds your portfolio up. And so if a journal is looking for editor and you apply to it, they'll look at your portfolio and know that, yes, you deserve to be an editor. If you're a reviewer, you are not paid. It's a contribution to the scientific community, but it enhances your own career portfolio. Because, for example, if I'm putting my CV together, my CV needs to communicate my contribution to my discipline. And I have to communicate how I'm contributing to the science of psychology and mental health. And by being reviewer, it's a contribution. So I have to list all the journals that I am a reviewer of. So far, if I decide to review for this journal, this might be the 10th journal that I am a reviewer for. Do you get it? And once these things are on your CV, especially as an up-and-coming scholar, it helps you a lot in advancement. But there will not be a direct pay, like monetary pay. But if you're an editor, you'll be paid. But it's always, the pay is not as if you are being paid. It's always a token. But even the token could be big in the eyes of an early career. Do you get it? Because if you're an editor and you are being given maybe $1,000 or some £1,000, whether it's a month or something, it's right. And so before a paper is published, whenever you are putting together, because I need you to understand these things before we zoom into manuscript development. Because if you are just writing manuscripts and you don't understand the landscape within which you are working in, you just be writing anything anyhow. Is that okay? The first person that will review your paper is a professor of the field. And your paper needs to convince him. And when I say a professor of the field, it's not just any professor. Mm-hmm. The reviewer is not reviewing it with scientific rigor, scientific contribution. Right? We zoom into these things into details. Because you need to understand, what will the editor be looking for in my manuscript? Have I satisfied it? What will reviewers be looking for? What question will be reviewers be asking? Have I satisfied it? To enhance your manuscript's chances of being accepted. Right? Any other question, including those online? Yes. Yes, we'll come to that very soon. Okay, so now this is a flow diagram. This is a flow diagram for the publication and the review process. This is a flow diagram for the publication and the review process. Let me minimize it a bit to make sure that okay. It may look a bit small, but okay. So first of all, when you are done with your manuscripts, okay, you send your manuscripts, you register in the journal submission system. Even though an editor manages a journal, you don't send it directly to the editor. You go onto the journal's homepage, and then maybe that one will do it more. And then you register in their submission portal. It's always a portal. Like when you are applying to a university, you apply through a portal. You submit your paper on a portal. Again, any journal that tells you if you want to publish, send your manuscript to this email. It's a predatory journal. It's a predatory journal. You enter into a portal, you register with your password and everything. You submit so you register and then you submit your journal there. When you submit it, it doesn't go to the editor direct. It goes into their system. And we are in the days of artificial intelligence. So AI will have to work on your paper first. AI will work on your paper first to make sure that your paper conforms to the requirements of the journal. And every journal has, in their homepage, they have clear guidelines on how they want you to prepare your manuscripts. Is that okay? What referencing style they want, how they want you to name your tables, where they want you to place your tables, how many sections they want you to have, how many words should your abstract be, and then what kind of referencing style do they want, everything. So the AI will check for all these. If it doesn't match what the journal wants, the system will return it back to you. Sometimes it will say, maybe so and so doesn't match our system, so revise and so and so. And then you revise, and then, so when the AI does an assessment of quality control to make sure that you've adhered, then it goes to the editor, right? The editor will review it. If the editor reviews it, then, and the editor, and every editor has an editorial team. So the editorial team is made up of the editor and editorial assistants. So when the editor reviews it and thinks that this paper should be rejected, you tell the editorial assistant, they write you long emails, so and so, we are sorry, blah, 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 and they write it to you. You take your paper and you go wherever you want to go, right? If the editor believes that the paper is good, it should go to the reviewers. Then per the journal's own system of selecting reviewers, the editorial assistant will then write to the reviewers. Is that okay? So they write to the reviewers and then to assign reviewers to review your paper. And when the reviewers are done, the reviewers will not contact you. In so many journals, there's what we call double-blind review. Double-blind is such that you, the reviewer, you may not know the authors whose work you are reviewing. The authors too may never know who the reviewer is. In the email I showed you, they indicated the names of the authors. The authors are Ghanaians. So I wanted to find out why they did that. So I checked on the journal, and the journals have clearly indicated that they operate a very transparent review process. That means that you, the reviewer, they will let you know the authors. When your comments come and they are sending the comments to the researchers, they will add who the reviewer was. They clearly state these things there. So then I understand, okay, because if they didn't state it there and it was there, I would have said it's a predatory, but at least the publishing house is a credible publisher. So do you get it? So if it's a double blind, you will not know who the authors are, you the reviewer, and the authors will not know who the researchers are. Because if reviewers know who the authors are, imagine I am there and they send me a paper that has been written by a professor I know, who probably even taught me to review. You can imagine the intimidation, or you may even feel intimidated. But here, when it's a double blind, you are reviewing it, there's no author name associated, so you don't know whether the author is a student or a professor or whatever, you don't know. You just do a very thorough, objective review. And then you send your comments to the editor. So per the comments, so as they have sent me this paper, they have sent it to others, maybe 2 or 3. If we all agree to review, we will all send our comments to the editor. When I'm done reviewing, I will write a report on it. Let's say a 1-page report or 2-page report, depending on whatever comments I have, and send it. And then as part of it, I'll have to make a recommendation. I'll have to make a decision. Should this paper be accepted or rejected? I have to include it in my report. That per so and so, I recommend that you reject the paper. Right? So all these comments will go to the editor. Then the editor will now make the final decision. Because let's say three reviewers have reviewed, 2 say reject, 1 say accept. The editor makes the final decision. Is that okay? And mostly the final decisions can be one of either 3. There could be an outright reject. When it's a reject, then they will send your manuscript back to you, sometimes with reasons why they are rejecting it. Sometimes it can be accept. The accept can be in 2 ways. There could be accept without corrections. That one hardly ever happens. That somebody will send a manuscript that reviewers will review and they say that, oh, publish this one, there's no correction to be done. It hardly never happens. Mostly what happens is that accept with revision. Accept, subject to revision. So when it's accepted with revision, they'll write it back to you that your paper has passed the review stage. Okay, that the reviewers think that the paper has substance, but there are certain things you need to do to review the paper. And then they will tell you, they will give you detailed comments from, and the comments are so detailed from the reviewers that they can tell you on page 1, paragraph 2, sentence 3, this, you said this here, so and so. Very detailed comments like that. And you have to address all those comments. When you address all of those comments, you send it back to the editor. Sometimes the editor will send it back to the reviewer that you made comments on this. This is the researcher's response. Review it again to see if you think the paper is now better. And sometimes they can accept a paper and say review it. By the time you do your corrections and bring it, they say, no, the paper is bad, reject it. And they can still reject it. But mostly when comments come that your paper has passed review stage with corrections, it's a good news because there's 60% chance that the paper will be published. Depending on how you did your corrections, there are some people, and these things, if you've never supervised students before, you will not understand. Sometimes you can give comments for students to go and work on their thesis, and by the time they come, you see that they didn't understand your comments, or you don't know what it is that they have done, but they have made the thing worse. But most of the time, the comments are supposed to improve. And there are times when even reviewers can review your paper and they will reject the paper with comments and reasons why they have rejected it. And it will be good for you. Because if you take their comments and you work on the paper, you can work on it and send it to a different journal. Any journal that rejects your paper, you can't send the same paper back to the journal again. It doesn't work. But it doesn't mean you can never send any other paper to that journal. You may disagree with reviewers' comments. Is that okay? But you have to show why you disagree. You can't just say you are wrong and you are not providing justification. So a reviewer can say, we suggest that this session you do A, B, C, D, and maybe you as a researcher, you disagree. Is that okay? You disagree. So you can also write back to the reviewer that in your comments number 4, you suggested so, and so. In our opinion, we disagree. And this is the reason why we disagree. It's allowed. It's a science, it's a battle of ideas. It depends. If there are grammar issues with your work, then you, the author, you are the problem. The point is that no editor, no reviewer should have language issues with your manuscript. You are supposed to have taken care of that. So when they are reviewing technical, disciplinary, theological, conceptual, or methodological issues and ideological issues. Maybe you have found some findings. You are discussing it in a particular way. They disagree with the reasons you are given. Do you get it? For example, I reviewed a certain paper on maternal, I think utilization of like rural women and what makes them go to the hospital when they are pregnant or not. And they were saying most of their discussions were the attitudes of the women and that there should be public education to let the women understand. And I was looking at their data and I was telling them that there's something fundamentally wrong with their data. Even just by looking at their demographics about where the distance from the women to the hospitals, I'm seeing that there's a lot of distance between the women and the hospitals. So it may not be an attitudinal problem. Is that okay? It may be either economic or geographic problem. The person is staying so far away from a hospital, they may not be having money to go to the hospital. It's not an attitude problem. So they need to revise it because the way they have discussed their findings, they are blaming the pregnant women for their governments not providing them health facilities. Do you get it? So you can have these debates. Do you get it? The authors disagree with me. The editor agreed and told them that they have to go back and reanalyze their data, look at distance from the home to the hospitals and how it's impacting A and C utilization. They should check the economic status of the women and see how it's impacting on economic utilization. And when they did, it supported what I was saying. that those who were staying far away were not going to the hospitals. Those who were economically disadvantaged were not going. So it's not about public education, it's not about attitude. Do you get it? These are, because if you are a researcher and nobody is probing your work, every research is political indeed. The way you put findings out there can inform how people are treated. Do you get it? So if you are putting out some ideas that are dangerous, at least other people need to see and review it. Do you get it? So it's not always language issues. If there are language issues, then it means that you, the researcher, or the group of researchers, if you are multiple researchers, you didn't do your work well. Okay, so this is how the process that a paper goes through before it finally lands on the published. And most of the time, it takes a lot of time. Averagely, it can take minimum 3 months from when you submit to when you get comments to when the paper is published. That is even a general journal. Some journals can take 1 year. Some journals can take 2 years because of the process. Do you get it? Because of the process. So me, for example, when I'm choosing a journal, there's one criteria I add. I look at submission to editors' feedback, comments. How long? When I submit a journal, when I submit a paper, how long will it take me to hear from the editor? If it's too long, I won't send my paper to such a journal, especially if you are up and coming researcher that you need to publish fast. So when I'm sending papers, I'm very strategic. I'm looking at between submission to the editor's comments, I'm looking at between 1 month to 2 months, I should hear from the editor. If you don't hear from the editor within, when they tell you that you should hear from the editor within 2 months, and you don't hear from the editor within 2 months, it means that you are lucky. Your paper has gone to the review stage. Do you get it? Some journals will tell you that, oh, we did from submission to editor's decision 12 days. Because some journals are very busy. There are some journals that receive thousands of manuscripts a day. Other journals, maybe it hasn't become so popular, or maybe the impact factor is a bit low, so they don't receive a lot of papers. And so we'll come to how to evaluate which journal to send to, and we'll discuss these things. But if there's any journal that will promise you publication in 1 month, it's a predatory journal. Any journal that will promise you publication in 1 month. Because look, this thing has come to me as a reviewer, the one I showed you. I may take about, mostly they will say, oh, we want to hear from you within 1 month. If they don't hear from you in 1 month, they will send a follow-up email. I have some papers that were sent to me to review in November. I've still not reviewed it. Because sometimes you are busy. And they keep sending emails and sending emails and sending emails. Sometimes I see the emails and I feel so guilty. But me too, my papers have also gone to some places that for 6 months I haven't heard from them. So it's when the editors are not hearing from you for some time, they will send you the review a final email that because we didn't hear from you between this time, we have reassigned it to a different reviewer. Yes. Uh-huh. No. In your case, the publication will not be required for graduation. Publication will not be required for graduation, but at least a submission will be required, right? Evidence of having submitted will be enough. If it were to be a PhD, If it were to be a PhD, then evidence of publication, that one, there will not be any. Yeah, because you have like 3-4 years, so you can't show one paper or 2 papers there. That one, me. Okay. All right. Any question on the process? Because you see, in many manuscript development workshop, it just starts with teaching you how to write there. For me, I see that doesn't build the right competence. You need to let the person understand what the game is about, so that when they sit down to write a manuscript, they know what the manuscript is going to do, and they know what must go into it. Is that okay? Any question before we look at how to select journals? Yes, we'll run quickly through it because I know we have to. We would have taken a break, but we didn't because we have to break today at 12:30. And so those online, we'll be breaking around 12:30, 12:40 for today. And then tomorrow we'll start early. And then because much of the actual writing will be done tomorrow, actually. So how do you know which journal to take your paper to? First of all, make sure that the publisher is credible. The publisher is credible. Here, I have listed some credible publishers. Some, not all. Some. Is that okay? Some, not all. Because University of Ghana is a publisher. It publishes a journal, it's credible. The other universities that publishes journal. This one, I try to look at those that publish large volumes of journals. And so this is not exhaustive, but it gives you an idea. So Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, Sage, Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, APA, Biomed Central, PLOS, Emerald, all of these. Make sure that when you find a journal, go and check the publisher. That's the first thing you have to do. Check the publisher. If the publisher is not a publisher you know, do a lot of background check on that publisher to know that this publisher is credible. Sometimes all you need to do is just to, even on Google, you can ask, is this journal published by this so-and-so a credible one? You may find other reviews, other people's comments and their reviews. If the comments are 50-50, stay away. No, there won't be, it won't be like that. If the comments are 50-50, stay away. You have to have a strong evidence to show that these are credible publishers. That's the first thing. The second is the scope and the audience. The scope. Do they publish topics related to your research or not? For example, this journal that's just sent to me, BMC Pregnancy and Childbirth. And they've published something on quality of life, blah, 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 but focusing on mothers. So if I do quality of life among adolescents, it is outside of their scope. Do you get it? You can't say they've published somebody's article on quality of life, me to have written on quality of life. No. The journal is BMC, Pregnancy and Childbirth. That quality of life article was on postpartum mothers. Yours is on quality of life among workers. Even if you do quality of life among working mothers, it is still not within their scope because they are focusing on the interface of pregnancy and childbirth and quality of life. You are looking at work and motherhood. Is that okay? So when you select a journal, read their scope very carefully to know that, oh, my topic is well captured within their scope. If your work, if it's not captured within their scope, oh, you will hear from the editor, quick, this is outside of our scope. Apart from scope and audience, you also need to check their peer review process. Every journal, they have to emphatically state their peer review. If a journal does not have peer review, don't send your papers there. If they don't have peer review statement, that this is how we do our peer review. Science rests on peer review. Every material that has been published within credible journals have been peer reviewed before it was allowed to publish. So if your paper will not be reviewed by anybody, you will send your paper, they will say, send us an email. You send the email, and in the next 1 month, your paper is published. Hey. So peer review is important. Make sure the journal is well indexed. Right? We've talked about indexing. Let them indicate to you which databases do they index the articles. Then check the editor and the editorial board for credibility and possible biases. Every journal, when you go to the journal's homepage, they will list the editor-in-chief and other editors. We call it editorial board. Maybe they may have 5 editorial board, like they have 5 editors and 1 editor-in-chief. So they have an editorial team. Check who are they. If you are not very familiar with the journal, if it's a journal you are seeing for the first time, and you've met the editorial team, Google them, check them on Google Scholar. If you are not finding them on Google Scholar, chances are that it's a predatory journal. Is that okay? Check for their background. Let's say this is a Journal of Health Psychology. The editor-in-chief is a midwife. Do you get it? So you have to check to make sure that the editor and editorial board are credible people. And then also check for possible biases. Sometimes you check and all the editorial board, they are all white people. They are all white people. Sometimes you can read about them and say, are they racial biases? Because if they are all white people, sometimes they may be racially biased. If they find a paper coming from Africa or they find, I'm not saying all white editors are like that. Is that okay? But you need to check. If the editorial board is not a mixed race, it's a red flag. Personally, it's a red flag. Is that okay? The editorial board, let's say they have editorial board of 7 people. It's not a mixed race. They are all men, white men. You don't see any Asian in there. You don't see any black person or any black American or black European. You don't see any. It could be recipe for possible biases. Their tendency to reject papers from certain parts of the world will be higher. Is that okay? And then also check the nature of the research to decide whether it is fit for the journal you are putting it in. For example, I'm a psychologist. Should I publish in Journal of Maternal Health? Or I should send my paper to Journal of Psychology? If the paper I have written is a basic paper, it's a basic psychology paper, it's testing a theory. If it's testing a theory, don't take it to a journal that is focused on practice. Take it to a journal that is focused on theory. If it's a paper that is focused on practice, let's say, for example, this paper that was sent to me has been sent to me to review. It's possible that it has been written by psychologists. Is that okay? They are probably looking at psychosocial functioning and quality of life, postpartum depression of postpartum mothers. Because it's purely for practice. Is that okay? You don't need to send it to journal of any journal of cognitive, whatever. Do you get it? Focus on a journal that is devoted to improving health and wellness of mothers. They are more likely to get, it's more likely to get accepted. So when you are testing a theory, then it's better to take it to a purely theoretical journal. If your paper is on practice, send it to a practice journal. It can enhance your chances of the paper being accepted. So there are some papers I write that I send to purely psychology journal. There are some papers I write that I send to public health journals because the paper is looking into the psychology around public health in a particular domain. So it's better it goes here. I have a paper that I've sent to a nutrition journal because the paper was looking at how emotions influence dietary patterns of people living with chronic conditions, right? And I sent it to a nutrition journal. These dynamics are very important. Is that okay? These dynamics are very important. And then also there are other things you need to check, like impact factor, citation count, acceptance rates. If it's a journal that accepts paper, let's say for some journals can have 12% acceptance rate. What it means is that if it receives 100 papers, they only accept 12. So the higher the acceptance rate, the better your chances of your paper getting accepted, especially if you are a beginner. If for an accomplished scholar, an accomplished professor, they don't care. Even if your acceptance rate is for 1%, they will bring it. You can't say no. But the paper is so good. You are now finding your feet. Do you get it? So all of these things matter. And then also, volumes per year. How many times does this journal publish? Some journals publish once a year. Some journals publish 4 times a year. Okay, so every 3 months they publish. Some journals publish 2 times a year. If you are starting off, focus on the journals that do multiple publications in a year. Do you get it? Multiple publications in a year. That means that within the year, they would have published so many articles and your articles will be in there. Rather than focusing on a journal that publishes once every 2 years. Some journals publish once every 3 years. Yes, and those ones, you are looking at the top-notch professors who publish in those journals. Do you get it? But if you are a beginner researcher, even twice a year may not be good for you. 3 times a year, 4 times a year, 5 times a year, 12 times a year. Yes. See, volume 1, volume 2, volume. Those are the volumes. So 2025 volume 1 is the first volume they published in 2025. 2025 volume 2, that's the second volume. So yes, so they are publishing in batches. So let's say the first volume they publish like 20 articles. The second volume maybe they publish 18 articles. The third volume maybe they published 15 articles. The fourth volume maybe they published 20 articles. So in a year they might have published 60 to 80 articles. We'll go to a journal's homepage and then I'll show you how every journal has an impact factor. They need to tell you whether it's the bigger the impact factor, the bigger the reputation of the journal. So if you're a beginner researcher, aim for journals with slightly low impact factors, because it means that accomplished scholars may not be targeting those journals. Do you get it? So you are starting off your first publication. You are looking for a journal with an impact factor of 7. When Prof. Binka is also sending a paper to that same journal. do you get what I'm saying? So when you are starting off, but they need a journal that doesn't have an impact factor. Don't. Impact factor means that the journal is impacting the field, the extent to which the journal is impacting the field. So the extent to which researchers are citing, right? Researchers are citing the journal, the extent to which practitioners are using papers from the journal.
The confusion has not stated time frame should give a benefit to you.
Sorry. Right, the extent to which practitioners are using knowledge from that journal to influence their practice. That's what impact factor is. The scientific community and those that they know how to calculate impact factors for journals. So the journal will state that 2024, our impact factor was 3.2. If you've never had a publication before, and the paper, you are publishing the paper alone. If you are publishing the paper with other accomplished scholars, then that's not your decision to make. Do you get it? When I was doing my master's and PhD and I was publishing with my professor, they were aiming for the impact factor. So my name too is there. So when they get me to enter there, some. Do you get it? So if you are publishing with accomplished scholars, they can carry you on their wings. Do you get it? But if you are writing something from your own thesis and it's the first time you are ever doing that, you have to be very circumspect. Do I have publications already? If I have publications, then I don't need to rush to get publications, so I can start targeting. But if you've never had, start from the lowest to build your competence up. Do you get it? It's very important. And then also, you also need to know, I've talked about time to first decision. Time to first decision. The time from when you send your manuscript to when the editor gets back to you. Look at it. If it's too long, it's not good for you as a beginner. Is that okay? Because if you need to publish a paper in 6 months, right? And you are sending it to a journal whose time to first decision is 1 year. It will take 1 year before the editor will get back to you to tell you that your paper has been rejected. Then, did you go or did you come? In Ghanaian Palace. Did you go or did you come? Okay. And then there's something called APC, article publication costs. Publications are not free of charge. Some journals can charge as high as £1,500. Yes. No, 2,005. Some journals can charge as high as £5,000. So you need to check. They charge these because for the journals that charge higher, the higher the impact factor, the higher the APC. It's not a pay to publish. It's a public. It's they call it what? The way of processing your publication and everything, right? But there's also a publication model. For me, I look at publication model. I've done publications that I didn't pay anything. There are some journals that say that they have funding that covers publication costs. So they do, for example, there are two ways. There's open access publication. If you want to publish your paper, such that anybody can download the paper without paying. Have you ever tried to download the paper and they say pay? Good. That means that the person published but did not pay publication fee. If you do not pay publication fee, your paper will not be free for people to access. If you pay publication fee, your paper will be free, open access. Anybody can access it. And when a paper is open access, it means that so many people can have access to it. So if the readership will increase, the citation of your paper will increase. Now, when you are using a university's Wi-Fi, let's say you are in University of Ghana, you are in University, UHAS, you are in KNUST, you are using a university's, you get articles for free. The reason is that the university has already paid for it. That is why you are able to have it for free. Do you get it? So accessing article is never free. It's never free. There are some articles when you use the university's, what is it called? The university's Wi-Fi. You get it for free, but when you are using your own data, they will say pay for it. Because the university subscribes to these journals. When you use it, the university has paid for it already. So when the university keeps paying and the students are not downloading the articles or the scholars are not, the university is wasting money. Right? So a university like University of Ghana has vast subscription to several databases compared to UHAS, because UG is big compared to UHAS. UHAS will only subscribe to health-related, health-based research because they're a health institution. Do you get it? Legon will subscribe to health, will subscribe to business, will subscribe to law, will subscribe to geography, will subscribe to physics, will subscribe to... So they pay huge sums of money. So if you're in a project, the project has funding for publication, then the project easily pays APC. If the project doesn't have funding for publication, then, or even if it's your own paper, you don't have funding, then you may like to look at journals that do hybrid publication. They can give you the option to pay or not to pay, so that you can publish a paper without paying. What that means is that it is only institutions that have subscribed to that journal that can download your article. Do you get it? So I have, and then also if you are in a health institution, sometimes there's an advantage because you may publish without paying, because maybe an institution like NIH, National Institute of Health in America, or WHO has probably paid for some particular kinds of publication or on some topics. So once you bring your paper in on that topic, WHO wants it to be freely available. And so you publish without paying. Sometimes too, you can be asked to pay, and then I remember when I was the first time I was doing my own publication from my thesis. Taylor and Francis, they accepted 2 of my papers, and each was going to cost me $1,500, $3,000 for the 2. And there was no way I wasn't going to have this money. Even if I had it, I won't use it. So I wrote to the editor. So explaining that this is not a funded research. I'm in this part of the world, and then blah, blah, blah. And they waived some percentage off for me, so that instead of $1,500 per paper, I pay $300 per paper. and there are other papers, for example, in Springer, that I've published free of charge. I didn't pay anything. Is that okay? So there are different modalities. No, Springer is not free. Let me take you to for example, before this morning when I was preparing, I was just looking at how to evaluate a journal. So for example, this is a journal of child and adolescent trauma. If you've done any research on adolescent health and well-being, maybe you can send it to such a journal. How do you evaluate this journal? Straight away, I know that this is published by Springer. Do you get it? So it's credible. Now I have to look for other things. There are publication options. So they have subscription publication. So if you are paying by subscription, if you are publishing by subscription, you will not pay for your article to be published. But when the article is published, it is only institutions that subscribe to this journal that can download the article for free. Do you get it? Then there's also open access. Open access means that when my paper is published, I want everybody to have access to it. That way, for that one, you pay article processing charge, because they will not be able to charge people for your article. So you have to pay the charge for yourself. Do you get it? So it's better when you have a journal that does these two ways. Is that okay? And then apart from that, you check what we call site score, their citation score. That means, so this one says 1.6 times more citations when you publish open access. So for example, if you publish by subscription and you get 10 citations in a year, if somebody publishes open access, the person may get 26 publications, because anybody can just download it without paying. And then also So they talk about fees and funding. Look here. The current APC for Journal of Child and Adolescent Trauma is £2,290 or $3,190 or 2,590 euros. You decide which ones. Yes, your question. No, when they have accepted your paper for publication. You only pay when the paper is accepted for publication. So when you are submitting, you don't pay anything. Nobody pays money at the point of submitting, right? Then there are other things. For example, let me look at journal updates. What do they have here? Okay, for journal updates. I want to look at where they talk about. So submission guidelines, you check their submission guidelines. They have how to publish with us. You check their fees and funding. You check about their language and all of that. And then, check their volumes and issues. It will let you know how often they publish. So for example, volume 27 in 2024, they published 4 issues. They published issue 1 in March 2024. They published in June 2024. They published in September 2024. They published in December 2024. So that means that they publish 4 times in a year. They publish every quarter. Okay. So when you take the March, the ones they published, they will tell you the articles they published. But at least you know they publish 4 times in a year. It's good for anybody who needs to publish fast. Is that okay? That way you can be sure that you will have feedback within 3 months because they need to process and publish every 3 months. Some of them are paying, some of them are not paying. It depends on if the research you are publishing is a funded project, the project will pay the publication for you. If article processing charge is paid, then whether you subscribe or you don't subscribe, you can get a paper to read. If it's published open access, you can get a paper to read. That's why when you go on Google Scholar, there are some papers, even when you are using your private MTN or Telecel, you are still able to download the PDF. If you're able to download the PDF, that means that the paper is published open access. If you are not able to download the PDF, it means that the paper is published subscription-based. You need to use either. So there are times when I want to download a paper and I'm in Ghana and I'm using UHAS, what do you call it? UHAS Wi-Fi, and I'm not able to download it. It means that UHAS does not subscribe to that journal. Sometimes I send the reference to a friend in UG, and then the person downloads it for me because probably UG subscribes. If I send it to UG and the person in UG is not able to download it for me, I send it to a friend either in US or UK in different universities, and they will definitely get it. It's how it works. Do you get it? So check the volume and know that they publish multiple times in a year. It's very important for you to know. I want to find where they indicate their time to first decision. Time to first decision. Let me see. No. When you are choosing a research topic, it has nothing to do with journal. When you are choosing a research topic, it has nothing to do with journal because there are millions of journals that you can. Any research topic you choose, there could be hundreds of journals you can send it to. No. No, that's not. There's nothing like a topic that gets publication for free. There's really nothing like that. There are different ways you can still publish without having to pay. Do you get it? If you need to know. For example, look at this journal, their editorial board. So their editor-in-chief is Dominic McSherry, who is belongs to School of Psychology, Ulster University. So when the person can be identified with a credible institution, do you get it? It means that the paper is, the journal is credible. And then there are associate editors. Associate editors. It means that when you send a paper to this journal, any of these editors can first review it. It doesn't always mean that. So the editor-in-chief will not be the only one who is reviewed. The editor-in-chief can assign it to any of these associate editors for editors' review. Do you get it? And there are so many of them. There are so many. There are so many of them. So you need to check all these. What? Cortex. I don't get your question. Cortex. It's a journal. What's the name of the journal? Elsevier. Then it's credible. If the publishing house is credible, the journal is credible. Don't bother yourself. If the publishing house is credible, it means the journal is credible. You can only check other things about the journal to know whether it's a journal you want to send it to or not, but it doesn't mean the journal is not credible. For example, these are other journals by Springer, other journals, Advances in Neurodevelopmental Disorders. It's a journal by Springer. Look at it. They do hybrid publication. That means you can either publish for free, or you can publish open access or publish subscription. Journal impact factor is 1.3. This will be good for early career. If you are starting afresh, this impact factor will be good for you. Submission to first decision, 42 days. Median is 42 days. It's okay. At least you know that when you submit your paper, within 2 months, you will hear from the editors whether your paper has been accepted or not. Now look at the next journal, Adversity and Resilience Science. They also publish hybrid. They have a lot of downloads. That means that when you publish there, people download. Submission to first decision, 15 days. Awesome. But you see, this one doesn't have impact factor. Yes. 4 days. Sometimes when the time to decision is short, 4 days, it means that they don't want to waste their time. If your paper is bad, they just send it. You get it? That is why their review days is 64 days. You get it? And the time to publication is what? No, submission to acceptance is what? 164 days. So that means that how many months is that? Roughly 6 months. Do you get it? If you have some publications already, have they stated their impact factor? Those ones are they are what do you call it? There's scientific calculations. There's what do you call it? There are ways of calculating the performance of the journal, performance of articles in the journal. Do you get it? Yeah. And then when you also start publishing, you see that the scientific community will start calculating certain things about you as a researcher. So all these metrics are very, very important. You get it? So you need to check all these before you know. And so if we are going to go into manuscript development, we are going to develop manuscripts to communicate with the broader system. Do you get it? Because tomorrow we'll go into developing the actual manuscripts. The actual manuscripts. Do you get it? But you need to understand these dynamics. Okay. We said we're going to end at 12:30. It's 12:30 now. Any questions so far before we end today's session? Those here, those online. Any question? Yes. You can just Google. Maybe, no, you can just, there are two ways. You can just Google. Maybe you've written journals on depression. You've written something on depression and you want journals on depression. You can just type journals on depression, even on Google. And then you can see International Journal of Depression and Anxiety. It's published by Clenmed International Library. I don't know this publishing house. It doesn't mean they are not credible. You go and say, Depression and Anxiety Journal, Wiley Online. I know Wiley. If I am the one looking for this, I'll go and check this journal because I know the publishing house. Do you get it? So and then there's also publishing Depression Start Pills, the NIH, which is also credible. There's Open Journal, which is also credible. So you can just search Google and use the name of the journal in the publishing house. Check the credibility. And then you check the journal analytics to know that I want to see.
And probably the department may want to offer her us for the full.
Okay. So if there's no question, those online, we are ending here. We thank you for joining us today. We'll meet again tomorrow, and then where we will do the actual writing. Now we know when we prepare manuscripts, we know where it goes and what it's going to do. Tomorrow we are going into the writing itself. Okay, so we'll end here for today, and then we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc. See you tomorrow.
All right.